Hello everyone, it is I, Carlton Flowers, your Crypto Pro, with a report for May the 28th, 2020, with the action on BTC, updating you since the last video that posted a couple of weeks ago. We have a lot of interesting developments on the chart that we will discuss today and see if we can find some clues that will let us know what the possibilities are for an absolute capitulation or a launch into the bull market zone. All right, cut the music, cut the crap, cut the camera. You don't need to look at me. Let's just look at the chart. We are on TradingView, and let's just look at the overall since our big peak back here at nearly 14,000, and then we had the run down below, down at the 4,400 level, somewhere around there, and the wick that goes all the way down into the 3,000s, which we have not seen since the big capitulation before the parallel trading channel was set into action, into motion. What we discussed in the last video update is the fact that we are now trading outside of the parallel trading channel, which made me think maybe we are at the beginnings of a bull market. But there are some interesting clues that I picked up on which make me think otherwise, which also tell me what could be happening within the next few weeks. So let's zoom into the 4 hour and just have a little close examination. Now, we had point number one that was an absolute higher high after a long series of higher highs, followed by 2, 3, and 4, which were lower lows. And we discussed this in the last video. And since then, we've got this little cup shape action right here. Now, it's interesting that even though we are trading above the parallel trading channel, this line, the first line that comes above the parallel trading channel, has acted as resistance and support. Look at this right here, resistance, here resistance, and then support. Here it blasted through and didn't do anything, and then here it blasted right back through, but then it became support here, failure, resistance here, and now we blew straight through yet again. Why do we see these same pivot points along this line that is parallel to the top of the parallel trading channel? Interesting point number two is that these peaks that go well above the parallel trading channel all top out, creating a line that also has the same exact slope. So let's zoom out a little bit. I've extended this line because I'm waiting to see what happens as we approach the blue fib circle boundary, which happens to be, let's see, which ring is this? This is a big one. We got to go out to the 1 day to catch. It is the 4.236 on the big ring, and I think that's going to be a significant point of possible pivoting. That was a lot of P's. Significant point of possible pivoting coming at you within, let's see, that will be here somewhere around June the 20th. So somewhere from the mid to latter part of June. All right, so back to these points of lower highs. We are right upon this gray fib circle set based on the micro trading channel, the upward moving trading channel. So at the gray line of demarcation, which happens to be the 3.618 ring, we could see a pivot, even though it almost looks like it has already done so. But I would imagine that with this double top happening here with our stochastic, we are clearly in the overbought zone above the 80% line of demarcation. And if we look even further into the 1 hour, we see a little trading off of some green and red candles ever since this peak, which tells me we're not headed down yet. And so at this moment, since we have dipped below on the 1 hour, we might be going higher, approaching the 3.618 gray line, and then this could be a possible pivot point. That's how it always goes. Now, sometimes it just blows straight through, but let's look at all of the evidence and see if this is going to be a pivot point. There are several bits of information and clues that support a possible pivot headed back to the downside. First of all, we're already in the oversold zone. Second of all, every one of these stochastic, I can't talk, let's draw on here. Every one of these stochastic peaks are returning a lower price point. So let's look at it. At point number 1, here's our peak. Hang on, let's draw this backwards. Point number 1 corresponds with this peak. Point number 2, which is a lower high, there's our peak. Point number 3, here's a peak that didn't make it too far above the overbought zone. Point number 4 didn't even, it just barely made it over the 60% line. And then we could actually call this point number 5, where it approached the 80% point and gave a much lower return. But now this one, we're clearly in the overbought territory. So we're going to call this one point number 5, actually, eventually. And look at that right here. We are at a stochastic peak returning a lower high. So that's clue number 1, that this is probably a pivot. So let's clear that turn drawing mode off and look at the next clue. So the next clue to me is the fact that we are approaching 2 critical areas that have told us that there's an action point happening in the past. And that would be number 1, this fib circle ring, the 3.618, and also the top of this new parallel trading channel parallel line, the extended line that is on the same slope as the parallel trading channel. So we could either hit this line and crawl up a little bit maybe and fail down because we're already peaked out. In fact, the stochastic fast line looks like it's about to cross over the slow line, but sometimes when it does this, it'll get another hump. So we could pivot right on the line, or we could boom up to the top of this extended parallel trading channel boundary and experience a rejection. Okay, another clue. Look at the volume. What's the volume doing? It's doing nothing. So let's draw a line that looks at the tops of the volume that is steadily decreasing. And notice that the volume on our peaks just goes lower and lower. I should have started that line right here. Okay, so this is pretty nice volume here that corresponded with number 1. And then this is nice volume here, even though it was a sell volume. This was a nice volume here. We got a lot of green bars here, but notice that it gets lower and lower. We had the big sell here, double red volume bars, and then just kind of keeps on calming down. So when we see volume decreasing, yet the stochastic increasing, and we're above that overbought line, something tells me that we're going to pivot to the downside. All right, so let's squish this down and see if we can zoom out a little bit more. There was one other clue that I had, and I forgot what it was. Well, let's just draw on here and discuss what the possibilities could be for, where it's going to go from here. Now, maybe we'll discuss the bullish scenario first, which doesn't make sense to me right now. I mean, I don't see it, but let's put some green on here and just make some arrows. If we get another hump out of this and then we just go against the current trend where each one of these stochastic peaks returning a lower high, maybe if we just bounce up again and come to the top of the parallel trading channel and then just boom, we could head to the quadrant number 1 of the big, what did I say that was? 4.236 on the blue, on the big ring. That's the only place I could really see it going. Or it could touch down here and maybe the top of the new extended parallel trading channel line could become support, and then we hit this 4.236. So maybe if something monumental happens in the news, who knows? Even though I don't think news affects price, I really don't. I mean, people who fall for that and they look for big breaking news stories to send us to the moon and to get rich overnight, you usually end up getting burnt. And I think that it's a natural progression of things. It's not news stories that will cause this market to move. So that's a possible bullish scenario. But as I said, on the 4-hour, we're still at the top here. Let's even look at the 1 day. Let's give a 1 day bullish scenario. Let's see here. The 1 day looks better. I mean, at least we had the stochastic peak at point number 4 that reached the 80% line. But right now, we're not quite there. We're at the 39.6 something, 39% and change. So if somehow with the 1 day chart, if we can get, let's see, 26th, 27th, 28th, let's go 3 or 4 or 5 days, to get to this line. If we go from the 30% point to the 80% point, it looks more plausible on this chart on the 1 day that we could take the next several days and get to this gray line. And if we're not quite at the 80% line, there is room there to get to the blue 4.236. So that's possible. But if we're at our peak by that point, I still think we could come plummeting down. And the reason is, so we get here, and then what's going to happen after that point? I don't know. Now let's clear this, turn drawing mode off, and zoom out. I'll show you one thing on the 1 day chart that would not impress me, and that is the fact that if we did get to this fib circle ring here at the 4.236, this is a lower high. So once we get to that point, we still have to make it up to this 30,000 or 13,000 whatever, just below the 14,000. We're not there. We have to take out this high in order to call this a reversing trend. Even if we did make it to 12,000, it's not absolute proof that we've broken this overall trend, because this could be a capitulation point at the top of that ring, or crossing this ring right there. Okay, so that is the 1 day, which looks like 12,000 is a possibility. I mean, it can happen. But let's zoom back in on the 4 hour and look at what could happen on our bearish scenario. Something else that lends to the bearish scenario, it just came to me, is the stock market. All of the hopes of a V-shaped recovery are gone. And they're saying that we're probably going to take another big dive here really soon. And as we all know, the Bitcoin price line has been tethered, no pun intended, to the stock market, which is actually another point and bit of evidence that would support a bearish scenario. The monkey business going around with Tether, who continues to lie about how much that they are backing their token with the US dollar. But that's another story for another day. Let's talk about where it could go from here. So, pulling out some lines, if we get to the gray line, or let's just say, for the story's sake, that we make it to the top of this channel, we could come back down, and this could become support. That would be a possibility, even the bullish scenario. But if we break through this line, if we go below 9,000, it's going to go down. And I'm thinking we'll either probably ignore these gray short-term micro fib circle boundaries, and we'll find at least the big blue ring, the 4.236, at around 6,000 and change. So that's bearish scenario number one. Now, if worst becomes worst, and we blow through that line or crawl up a little bit and then go down, we could hit the bottom of the parallel trading channel. Now, this could send us to what? Let's just clear this and turn drawing mode off and see where the price line hits. The bottom of this channel is in the low 3,000s, 3,400, somewhere around there. So this has the least probability. I'm thinking that on the bearish scenarios, probability number one, the highest, would be at least 9,000. Okay, and then we bounce. Probability number two, which could be maybe 60%, the one I'm leaning on, is jumping down here and kind of breaking down to the 6,000 and change level. And possibility number three, which has maybe the 20% probability, maybe 20 to 30%, who knows, is hitting 3,000. It can happen. So let's zoom out and go back to the, let's clear those. And let's look at the 1 day chart. As a matter of fact, why don't we switch to the clean version, BTC USD, that doesn't have all the lines on it. Jump over to the 1 day. Here we go. So now that we can see, this is more of a horizontal trading zone that I constructed on this particular chart that looks at the macro. Here's our micro trading channel line right here. So if I add one more here to recreate our parallel trading channel zone. It's on our other chart. Then we can see that our lower zone is down here, possibly. Hang on a second. Here we go. We got to lower that down because those wicks are actually bars on the 4-hour chart. So at the bottom of the channel, this gets us into the lower 3,000 territory. So let's draw on this. And let's just look at it in review of what has already happened. So we had the nice bump up and then all of this action happening where we bounce from one end of the channel to the other. And for a while, it was just monkeying around in the middle. Monkey in the middle. You remember saying that as a kid? Made it back to the top of the channel and then went all the way to the bottom. Who would have thunk it? And so it took the coronavirus and stock market capitulation event for this bottom to occur, but then now we have recovered and we went all the way back to the top of the trading channel. Well, if a stock market crash did it once, a stock market crash can do it again. So if the stock market does not crash, maybe we monkey around back to the middle and do just what we did here and surge back up to the top. But if we get another major stock market crash, you better believe that it's possible that we go back down to 3,400. It is possible. All right, so let's clear that, turn drawing mode off, and zoom even further out. So looking at where we are right now compared to the big peak in 2017, still there is nothing to write home about. There is nothing to really get excited about until all of this trading channel action is done and we make a definitive move that sends us up here, that goes above the peak that happened nearly at 14,000 buckaroos. All right, so once we get outside of 14,000 buckaroos, it's green light, and I have blue. That makes sense. Then we can start moving up here. And as I said in a previous video, when we make the real next move, we're all going to know it's not going to be any of this nonsense. We would have to squish this down to something like this. There's the green line that I made. This is what's going to happen next, where we're going to have a hump that takes us to 70, 80,000, then maybe 140,000. And then after that, we go upward from there. I'm not ready to start talking 1 million Bitcoin. I think it's way premature for that. But this is what I think the next bull market is going to return us. So that's why all of this action that is down here in this little area is just, it's not news, guys. It's not. So break us out of this limit here in the parallel trading channel, and then we can start to have our watch party and get excited. All right, so that's about all I've got for now. That is the update, and we will have an XRP update for you next time, and we'll look at more of the action on BTC. And like I said, if you have other requests, if there are charts that you would like me to look at, let me know what they are. I would be happy to talk about it and provide analysis. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe and like and share if you would. And we'll see you next time on YouTube or over at TradingView. This is Carlton Flowers, your crypto pro, and I am out. See you next time.